on the Central African Republic. I now give the floor to Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, representatives, ambassadors, members of the Security Council, I thank you for having given me the opportunity to share with you the assessment of the situation in the Central African Republic in accordance with the report of Secretary General dating 13 June, as well as other subsequent developments. I wish to begin by extending my most sincere condolences to the Central African Republic, to the families who have been affected and those wounded following the tragic fire which occurred yesterday at the Barthélemy Boganda Lycée in Bangui. This tragedy, which occurred as a result of an electrical malfunction during the period of exams, baccalaureate exams, claimed the lives of 21 people, including 19 young girls and the president and of the institution. Dozens of others were wounded, and some are in critical condition. MINUSCA is fully engaged alongside the national authorities and stands ready to deliver all necessary support to address the tragedy and to deliver assistance to the affected people. Madam President, 6 days ago, a MINUSCA patrol was attacked in Sisia, 34 kilometers northeast of Barao, as it was carrying out an operation in response to signaling of attacks by armed Sudanese elements against civilians. Armed Sudanese elements, who presumed such armed Sudanese elements, opened fire on the patrol, resulting in the tragic loss of a Zambian blue helmet. I firmly condemn this attack, and I extend my sincere condolences to the family of the victim, as well as the Zambian government. I reiterate my call for the Central African authorities to spare no effort to investigate what transpired and to hold the perpetrators of this heinous attack accountable. This year is of particular significance for the Central African Republic, as the country is preparing to organize local, presidential, and legislative elections. The conduct in a timely way of presidential and legislative elections is a constitutional requirement, and the government has nevertheless consistently demonstrated its commitment to the conduct of local elections, which are a key component of the political agreement for peace and reconciliation which was signed in 2019, recognizing the strategic scope. The Council mandated MINUSCA to deliver electoral support to for all of these elections to be held. Elections are an critical opportunity to boost democratic governance and to promote national reconciliation, as well as to enhance long-term stability. Despite a significant political will, local elections were delayed. They were postponed on a number of occasions due to financial, technical, and logistical challenges, which the government and the National Elections Authority, with support of MINUSCA, are striving to surmount. As is indicated in the report that has been submitted to you, significant efforts have been undertaken to advance the revision of the electoral timeline at the national level. This process has been carried out smoothly without major security-related incidents, which attests to effective and efficient cooperation and collaboration between the Central African National Forces and MINUSCA, as well as the interest of the people, the local population, to participate in the political process. The publication of the definitive electoral list, which was initially scheduled to be held on 29 May, is still pending due to technical difficulties. These delays continue to obstruct the timeline and the conduct of preparatory steps for local elections, which are officially scheduled to be held on 31 August. I encourage the government and the election authority to continue their efforts to surmount these challenges, closely coordinating with the United Nations. Given the delays, effective cooperation and communication between the government and the Electoral Commission following the process, related to the process, is critical. The electoral process is at a turning point, and there's a critical need to safeguard and preserve the progress that has been achieved, to mobilize the necessary resources to prevent any backsliding. The political situation remains punctuated by mistrust and tensions between the majority in power and opposition, specifically the Republican Bloc for the Defense of the Constitution of 30 March 2016, the BRDC. The 19 April agreement between the government and the heads of the 3R and UPC groups is geared towards ending hostilities and reintegrating the political agreement facilitated by the Chadian authorities. This paves the way for progress to be made on the peace process and greater bilateral cooperation with Chad. Parties to the 19 April agreement are currently striving to ensure respect for the agreement and to generate concrete results on the ground. Significant progress has been achieved over the course of years when it comes to expanding the presence and authority of the state. Violence, however, has been perpetrated by the armed groups and militias, and they continue to compromise stability, and they pose a significant threat to civilians, national forces, and humanitarian actors, as well as Blue Helmets. The government continues to collaborate with MINUSCA and partners to extend and enhance its presence throughout the entire of the territory and to improve the security situation in border areas thanks to greater cooperation with neighboring countries. The inauguration of the Central African Defense Force post in Bambere in the Limpende prefecture was carried out with support from MINUSCA as part of implementation of the national border management policy. These efforts need to be supported with ongoing support from international partners and should enjoy and be based on ongoing progress and governance in the security sector in order to allow the security institutions to effectively protect the population. Despite these efforts, the security situation remains tenuous in border areas. In the northeast, in the border region with Sudan, instability continues to be characterized by the spillover of the Sudanese conflict, including incursions by armed groups. In the southeast, instability has been punctuated by atrocities that have been perpetrated by the AKKG. Some of the members of this group were integrated into the parallel recruitment process within the National Armed Forces, and they are now targeting the PO community, governmental forces and their partners, as well as MINUSCA. And during one of the attacks on 28 March near the village of Tabane in the Haut-Mbomu prefecture, a military observer from MINUSCA from Kenya was killed during a civilian protection patrol. This is the third attack since February 2025, which resulted in the death of a Blue Helmet. Once again, I condemn this attack in the strongest terms, and I condemn and extend my sincerest condolences to the family as well as the Kenyan people and government. We applaud the efforts of the Central African government as they strive to identify and prosecute the perpetrators of these heinous crimes. English.
The Republic remains concerning, with persistent violations and abuses, including conflict-related sexual violence and grave violations of children's rights. The government, with MINUSCA's support, continues efforts to advance transitional justice mechanisms in the fight against impunity. As the country approaches a critical electoral period, additional efforts are essential to address the persistent violations and abuses and to open the political and civic space, thereby guaranteeing a level playing field for all actors in the electoral process. Progress has also been made in advancing judicial accountability, notably by the Special Criminal Court, SCC, which is playing a significant role in the fight against impunity and transitional justice. On the 19th of June, the court rendered its third verdict in a trial concerning clashes that occurred in March 2020 in the Ndele region between two factions of the Front Populaire pour la Renaissance de la Centrafrique, FPRC. However, the SCC is now entering a critical phase that requires reinforced financial and human resources to sustain and expand its activities. Due to a lack of voluntary donor funds, the activities of the court will be at risk by September this year, which would undermine our collective investment over the past decade. I urge Member States to provide the necessary support to the court to ensure it can deliver on its mandate through 2028. Madam President, the humanitarian situation remains dire as urgent needs continue to outpace available resources. Humanitarian actors have had to reprioritize their efforts by suspending critical services for some of the most vulnerable populations. On a positive note, the government has sustained its efforts to operationalize the National Development Plan and is preparing to hold a fundraising roundtable on a National Development Plan in Morocco in the coming months. While longer-term development is essential, it is imperative that these efforts be accompanied by strong support for life-saving humanitarian assistance, ensuring a coordinated response that bridges urgent needs and sustainable development. MINUSCA has made important strides in strengthening its cooperation with the national authorities and the private sector to identify opportunities for increased local engagement in its supply chain. At the same time, institutional partnerships are being strengthened to build national capacity in procurement standards and business facilitation. These efforts not only contribute to job creation and reinforce local markets, but also support national priorities to foster private sector growth and economic resilience. The Central African Republic stands at the delicate juncture. The holding of local legislative and presidential elections presents a unique opportunity to strengthen democratic governance and advance national reconciliation. However, these are sensitive political processes, and the support of all partners of the Central African Republic, including this Council, remains essential. MINUSCA would continue to play its part, and I call on all Member States to ensure the mission is appropriately resourced to implement its mandate. To consolidate the considerable but fragile gains, continued national leadership must be accompanied by strengthened international support, which will help the people and government of the Central African Republic to achieve their aspiration of lasting peace. And if these efforts are sustained in a spirit of partnership and shared responsibilities, the Central African Republic has the potential to become a true success story, not only for Central Africans, but also for peacekeeping and for this Security Council. I thank you.
I thank Mr. Lacroix for his briefing.